Blog Talk Radio.
First breath is always the most important breath of the experience. Good morning, this is Robert Phoenix, and if you are in the vicinity of a speaker or headphone and you're hearing my voice, you're now listening to the Friday F.A.R cast, and I welcome you for your presence and even your participation if we decide to open the phones and have you call in a little bit later. We've got some guests today. We've got Dr. Hildegarde Staninger, who will be joining me in just a few minutes. We'll be talking about her work and her latest book, Portals to Destiny, which I have in my hand in front of me. It is not a very big book. It is I would call it almost a pamphlet in some ways, but it is a very interesting book, and it's based on the art of Mr. Rick Dubov, and he did a series of paintings that are portals. And there are red portals, and there are dark portals, and there are black indigo portals. It's interesting stuff, and people that have read this book are apparently experiencing some very interesting changes in their lives. So we're going to talk to Dr. Hildegarde Staninger in just a few minutes, and we'll talk about her work, and we'll talk about this book, Portals to Destiny. In the second hour of the show, we're going to have Michael Lee Hill on, and Michael is he is I see you could call him a UFO experiencer. He lives in the Lake Erie area around Cleveland, and he has an intuitive relationship, it seems, with UFOs. I wouldn't say he's able to summon them, but when he goes outside and takes his camera, they show up. And according to Michael Lee Hill, they seem to have kind of an interactive relationship with him. And he's been on Coast to Coast, and he's been on Red Ice Creations, I believe. So Michael is starting to make waves in the UFO world. He's also a musician, and I'll play one of his tracks later on the show. He's a very talented guitarist, and maybe we can talk about the UFO and creative convergence. So, in a lot of places on Friday, they have Casual Friday, right? I mean, I'm sure that, people out there who are working or have worked have experienced Casual Friday. I have my own version of it here in my home studio, and I call it Naked Friday, and I do my show naked. I bet you didn't know that. Every Friday, I sit in front of my computer screen with not a shred of clothing on. So, no, I'm just kidding. I am wearing clothing. But I'm trying to think if I've ever done the show naked. I think I might have done the show naked one time. This is truth. It's one of those things that you have to do at least once. right? I mean, doing a show, I had to do it at least one time. And you didn't know about it, so it's not a big deal, right? And it's the privacy of my own home, and I can be naked in my own home. Last time I checked. I've driven naked too before, by the way, and I did it again. I was in my youth. I'm not a naked freak. Okay, I don't run around and I don't go to nudist colonies or nude beaches. Although I have been to a nude beach. But I was a kid, and I decided one night, it was late at night, I dropped my girlfriend off, and I was naked. I just didn't feel like putting my clothes on, so I drove home naked. But today I'm fully clothed Friday. I just put a new post up on my website. I did that yesterday, and it's about Rashard Mendenhall. Rashard Mendenhall plays running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Rashard Mendenhall has a Twitter account, and he tweeted on, I believe it was on Monday, he started a tweet about how America celebrating the death of Osama bin Laden was kind of barbaric. And I agree with him, to be honest with you. I mean, I agree with him. On some level, I can understand why people do it, mostly because they're frustrated. That's what I think. And people need something to hang their hat on and feel good about. And there's all this frustration. People don't have a job. Economy sucks. There's just more and more confusion and chaos and strife and disorder. And people needed to have a hang your hat on moment. But come on now. Our culture never used to be like that. Never. We had a lot more decorum, and we had a lot more grace and a lot more civility, and we've lost touch with that. And he was talking about that, but he was also questioning whether or not they really got Osama bin Laden. And he also questioned 9/11. Now, if you're a professional athlete and sports culture in general, you don't do that, because if you do, your ass is grass. You are out on the street if you're marginal. If you're good, you'll have you'll have a chance to quote unquote redeem yourself. Now, Rashard Mendenhall, let's say Rashard Mendenhall played for the Oakland Raiders. He'd still catch a lot of flack. But the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers is Art Rooney II. And Art Rooney II was a very large campaign contributor to the Barack Obama campaign. He was running for president. And there's a rule in pro football called the Rooney Rule, which was established by Art Rooney to make sure that, quote-unquote, minority candidates get interviewed for coaching and general management positions. I think the rule is a farce. I think it's a sham. I think if a team wants to hire somebody who is black, white, pink, brown, or yellow, it's their prerogative. And what happens is that let's say the Oakland Raiders wanted to go out and hire John Gruden. Of course, they did at one point. Let's say they wanted to hire him, and that was their guy, and they had him targeted all along. He might even be on the staff. Let's say he was an offensive assistant, like a quarterback's coach or offensive coordinator. The way the Rooney Rule is set up is that the Raiders would have to interview a quote-unquote minority candidate. And the minority candidate doesn't even have a shot, but they have to abide by the letter of the law and the rule. Of course, this was not the case when the Miami Dolphins were courting Jim Harbaugh last year and flew all the way across the country, even when they still had their own coach was still employed by them, and they were not doing any kind of Rooney ruling on that. But I guess at the end of the day, it's about getting people experience in the interview process and getting the name in the press. I understand it. Look, it may have been good for a while. I think we can move beyond the Rooney Rule in sports. One man's opinion. Back to Rashard Mendenhall. He plays for the Steelers, and Art Rooney is very connected. He's now the ambassador to Ireland. So I'm sure he got a call. Now, here's the deal with Rashard Mendenhall and pro football in general. These guys don't have a contract. They have no contract with the NFL, so theoretically, there's nothing the Pittsburgh Steelers can do or the NFL can do about what he said. And he said it during a kind of a down time. But he's getting blowback, and the sports world is a very conservative world. Very conservative. The United States Army is one of the largest. It is, I think, the largest advertiser in the NFL. Period. End of story. So Champion is an apparel manufacturer, and Richard Mendenhall had a deal with Champion. Well, they've cut him loose. He no longer represents Champion based on his comments. So anyway, if you want to, you can go to my website, robertphoenix.com, and you can read my latest post about Richard Mendenhall. I'm also, believe it or not, in a fundraising drive because I need a new hard drive for my computer. My computer is dying. So if you listen to this program or you read my blog, and I know that there are folks out there who subscribe to my newsletter and have gotten readings and have supported what I do, and I thank you, and I'm grateful for all your support, both emotionally and financially. But if you enjoy the programming, please go to my website. We've got a donate button on the top right-hand corner, and anything you feel like contributing to this program is greatly appreciated and would go to being able to continue to do this program with a new hard drive for my computer. So that's it. That's the housekeeping business. Got that out of the way. So without further ado, she's been waiting patiently on this line. I know she has. Let's bring on Dr. Hildegarde Staninger and talk to her, find out more about what she's doing, her book, and her new role as a radio announcer like me on Michael Edwards' Living Light Network program. We're going to talk to her about that as well. So let's bring her on without further ado. Hello, Dr. Hildegarde Staninger. How are you?
I am fine, Robert, and thank you very much for having me on your show and letting the audience know, our listeners, what I'm doing now in my own little radio show. I think a lot of information needs to get out, and it needs to be truthful. So I appreciate being on your show. Thank you.
Well, you certainly have a lovely voice, so I think you'll be a slam dunk on the radio side of things.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now, should I call you Hildegarde, Hildy?
Hildy, Dr. Hildy. That'll be fine.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your past. Now, your name came across my radar screen for the first time, I think, around 2007, when the Morgellons experience was happening in a very big way. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, I've experienced Morgellons symptoms, and so when I found, when I did my searches and all that stuff, I came across your name and figured out that you were there, you were at the forefront, and you were trying to figure out what was going on with Morgellons and chemtrails and the connection between the two. And can we talk about that a little bit and kind of where you are?
Sure. Like as a quick summary. Back then, that was in 2007 when, as you said, my name came across your radar. And in 2006, I participated in an independent, private-funded study to identify what were the fibers, in particular the blue fibers, in people that had Morgellons at that time. And in this, we found that it was a 2-part polyester resin. It had a silicone head, and also matched, because I had 2 separate samples, one from Redondo Beach, one from Long Beach, and then one from Texas. It matched a chemtrail sample. Thus, in the professional opinion, it had to be from an aerial exposure, initial exposures. And then further studies showed that those matched half of the chemical composition of what was being done in Italy at that time, meaning this was now in 2007, 2008. So there is definitely an aerial emission factor, and thus whatever falls out of the air falls onto the land and can get into other tributaries, meaning water sources, into plants, food, etc. this way.